It's often, you know, the pressure's on at the World Championships because that's the event that matters, and he's been able to pull it off.
Looks like we are ready now to jump in to the feature match here on the VGC stream. Michele Gavelli versus Naoto Mizobuchi. So this is going to be an exciting match between two players, both trying to get into that top 16 level of prizing here. As now, let's get ready to jump into team preview. Looks like Michele is going to use Rayquaza, Togedemaru, Incineroar, Celesteela, Mimikyu, and Kyogre. I'm sorry. And Naoto using the Lunala, Groudon, Incineroar, Salamence, Tapu Fini, and Stakataka.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think if you look at Michele's team, it looks obviously quite similar to Wolfie team from the North American International Championships, featuring, of course, that Celesteela with the Kyogre Rayquaza combination that we've seen so much of. Togedemaru and Mimikyu, definitely two of the more unique choices here on that team. Mimikyu definitely putting on a really excellent performance throughout the course of this tournament on multiple teams. On the opposing side, it's actually Lunala and Groudon, so definitely not a legendary duo that we've seen too much of here in the Ultra Series. Some relatively standard partners, obviously, but definitely the dynamic of this matchup, as always, is kind of going to be this weather war between Kyogre and Groudon. And ultimately, the supporting cast members are going to be really critical. One of the questions I have is, what does Michele have to hit the Stakataka? Is there a way to kind of deny potential trick rooms? On the opposing end, I've got to wonder if there are any techs that the Stakataka can have. Is there something like a wide guard or a skill swap that can pair off with the Groudon? Because this definitely Groudon can put in a lot of work if it's able to eliminate the Rayquaza earlier on.
Here we go now, getting ready to jump into this first elimination match. Aaron, I am so excited. It is going to be a heated battle between these two players as Naoto uses Tapu Fini and Lunala, as Michele uses Rayquaza and Incineroar.
Yeah, so the Intimidate here is not really very effective at all. Doesn't really do anything against the Lunala and the Tapu Fini. Incineroar kind of in an awkward spot right now, where obviously doesn't want to take any water type attacks from the Tapu Fini, but unless it's Waterium Z Tapu Fini, it won't get knocked out, and we'll be able to... Incineroar here might fish for a dark type attack into the Lunala, might just go for a U-turn. I really have to wonder what kind of Rayquaza set this is, of course, as well. Is it kind of like the Swords Dance bulkier variant that we've seen throughout the course of this tournament? Is it kind of like the Assault Vest variant that, of course, was very popular leading up into this tournament? Right now, I don't expect to see any major knockouts on this first turn. Of course, all these Pokemon are relatively bulky, but it will give us some good sense of, how offensive is Rayquaza, how offensive is Tapu Fini, is Lunala running that Z move, does it want to kind of exert it immediately into Rayquaza? Lunala, of course, has to be a little bit careful about the potential Insinium Z from Incineroar as well, but no switches here.
Rayquaza will Mega Evolve this turn, trying to get all of its stats right now and bring out that Delta Stream to maybe weaken damage if it's the Tapu Fini goes for a Ice-type attack onto that Rayquaza here. So the Delta Stream is activated. The Mysterious Winds are going to protect Rayquaza as Incineroar uses Fake Out, lands into that Tapu Fini slot. Tapu Fini will not be able to move it. Rayquaza reveals Crunch, and then that's a Pulver Berry from that Lunala right there. So big information revealed now for Naoto and Michele. So, wow, that Pulver Berry and that Shadow Shield made sure that Lunala did absolutely nothing, and Lunala sets up a Trick Room here, so not that Tailwind variant that a lot of players really opt for.
Yeah, big reveal there with a lot of cool things. Obviously, Lunala's item being able to take a big Crunch from the Rayquaza, and Rayquaza obviously can Tech Crunch onto its moveset, but it's a little bit difficult to fit on, especially because so many sets want like Dragon Ascent and Extreme Speed. If you're a Swords Dance variant, you typically run Swords Dance and Protect. The Crunch version was a little bit common earlier on in this format with the Assault Vest set, so some good damage there, obviously. Another Crunch most certainly will knock out the Lunala, but like you mentioned, the Trick Room is up right now. Tapu Fini, if it is an offensive variant, can do a lot of damage against this Incineroar and the Rayquaza.
Lunala over on Naoto's side switches out. Salamence takes the field. Big Intimidate here, landing on both the Incineroar and that Mega Rayquaza. So what does Michele have to try to prevent this Tapu Fini from being able to get a possible big attack over onto that Mega Rayquaza, as Incineroar uses U-turn, hits into that Tapu Fini slot, and allows Michele to try to pivot right now?
Yeah, so big question of, does Tapu Fini have a strong attack here? Or is it just kind of the typical bulkier variant with Nature's Madness? Even Nature's Madness right now wouldn't be too bad, getting some consistent damage off Salamence is kind of a weird Pokemon to switch into when you have Trick Room up, but it made a lot of sense given that the opposing side was a Rayquaza and Incineroar, get a big Intimidate off, and you can actually now potentially switch the Salamence back out into Groudon, especially because Rayquaza has already Mega Evolved, so there's no potential threat of Airlock. A Groudon switching this next turn would definitely be very good, and yeah, there is a Nature's Madness.
Rayquaza dodges the attack as Rayquaza reveals Earth Power into what was that Lunala slot into that Salamence, so does not do anything at all as Tapu Fini uses Nature's Madness but misses Rayquaza.
Unfortunate avoid there. Nature's Madness not 100% accurate, and the Earth Power from Rayquaza coming out specifically to predict a Groudon switch-in, but because Naoto didn't bring the Groudon, now actually not in the worst of positions, can potentially switch out the Salamence now back out into Groudon. I think Michele kind of preparing for this, switching out the Rayquaza so he can bring it back in some later turn in this game.
Incineroar takes the field. This Intimidate is going to be important for Naoto's. Salamence dropping that attack stat, not going to matter too much for Tapu Fini as Salamence uses his turn to protect, does not want to take an Ice Beam immediately from Michele's Kyogre, as Kyogre does use Ice Beam, hits into that Salamence Protect, so smart play right there from Naoto, as Tapu Fini is content to just use Nature's Madness. This Nature's Madness does connect, hits that Kyogre, and takes it down to 50% of its remaining hit points.
Yeah, this Tapu Fini is looking really hard to beat right now from Michele's end. I like Naoto's decision to not switch out the Salamence into Groudon, which is obviously a very tempting play to make immediately to gain weather control, kind of anticipating that Kyogre is probably going to Ice Beam that slot, doesn't take any damage from Kyogre, and still has the potential to switch in Groudon. So this Tapu Fini right now, really difficult to take care of, especially if this Kyogre does not have Thunder, which most Kyogres in this format opt not to run. Incineroar isn't going to be able to do very much against Tapu Fini either. So the early Trick Room's been helping out this Tapu Fini a lot, even though, of course, he did miss the Nature's Madness earlier, still able to spread some damage around.
And apologies for mispronouncing his name. It is actually pronounced Michele, so my apologies for that one, as Lunala is going to take the field right now for Naoto. And Lunala takes the field as Incineroar uses U-turn. Incineroar using U-turn lands in that Tapu Fini slot. Not very effective damage, but again, that pivot is going to be very important to allow Michele to, just save it for later, use that Intimidate for later on, especially if Michele is scared of that Salamence, as Michele switches in that Celesteela now. So Celesteela takes the field, and that's Pokemon that we saw at the North American International Championships. And here's a big Origin Pulse connecting on both Tapu Fini and that Lunala. Shadow Shield broken, but Lunala hangs on since it's a much bulkier variant. Tapu Fini using Nature's Madness again, connecting, hitting that Celesteela slot. So Celesteela immediately taking the field and losing 50% of its hit points as it recovers with some leftovers.
Yeah, so Nature's Madness is able to obviously spread around a lot of damage. The awkward position there of, you can't necessarily just switch in Groudon there because the Incineroar can always just U-turn out after you switch out and go into Rayquaza, and the Rayquaza can just snipe the Groudon with a water type attack. So that's always kind of the tricky part of playing Groudon against a Kyogre Rayquaza team, where your opponent, especially if they have U-turn, has so many ways to potentially just nuke the Groudon immediately, so you kind of vie for position consistently. Kind of interesting to also note the speeds here between the Kyogre and the Tapu Fini under this Trick Room.
Yeah, so Lunala now using this turn to go for a wide guard, scared of another Origin Pulse as Kyogre on Michele's side protects itself. Doesn't want to possibly take a Nature's Madness of any sort, as Celesteela uses turn go on the offensive here, using Heavy Slam, lands and crashes into that Lunala and gets the KO from that range. So that will give Celesteela a Beast Boost. How has Michele trained this Celesteela? Is it special defense variant, attack variant? Nope, it is the special defense variant here as Tapu Fini uses Wound Blast into that Kyogre.
Yeah, that was pretty much the perfect turn there for Michele, being able to not take any damage, and Trick Room reverts there as well, getting a knockout and the Beast Boost there, which is actually really critical. Tapu Fini won't be able to do very much damage against the Celesteela at all, even with any offensive attacks. Salamence probably can't touch it, so it's pretty much all down to that Groudon, but of course, this kind of shows why Kyogre Celesteela was able to win the North American International Championships. A Groudon cannot touch Celesteela when the rain is up. So no surprise to see Groudon come out right now, but this is still kind of awkward because of the potential to switch into Rayquaza. That being said, this Kyogre does seem to be relatively slow, so perhaps Naoto is confident that the Groudon will be able to outspeed the Kyogre, maybe just get a big Precious Blades to knock it out.
Yeah, so Groudon takes the field here. The Desolate Land trumps that Primordial Sea, so now Groudon is currently in the weather that it enjoys, but again, as you mentioned, that Rayquaza just hiding in the back can easily just change that weather. Of course, when that happens, you have to wonder, is that Precipice Blades even going to connect if this Groudon is a Precipice Blades variant?
Yeah, you also have to worry about a potential wide guard from Celesteela, but I think there's no point in wide guarding right now because Kyogre isn't going to go for a water type attack, so a switch makes a lot more sense. That's exactly what happens.
Celesteela switches out. Rayquaza takes the field here with that Delta Stream activating with those Delta Winds. now allowing Kyogre to be able to go on the offensive here. How are these two primal Pokemon gonna compete in terms of speed? As Groudon uses Press Blade, that speed doesn't affect Rayquaza.
Does it connect? Oh, it does.
That Kyogre. So, wow. Big connection right there as
enough to knock
takes a lot
out
of damage, and Kyogre gets a 1 hit point.
Oh, but the
doubles up with a Moonblast, though, just covering the base and gets it.
Yeah,
so
okay.
safe play right there from Naoto to just make sure that that Kyogre gets knocked out in case of that Rayquaza switch.
Yeah, that was a really safe play there from Naoto's end because he had seen that the Tapu Fini was faster than the Kyogre given the Trick Room turns and how Kyogre was outspeeding Tapu Fini under Trick Room. So doubles up, guarantees the knockout there. Of course, the Celesteela in that position wasn't doing very much anyway. At most, you can maybe launch a Heavy Slam there into the Tapu Fini, but nice double up there from Naoto's end. Does not risk losing his Groudon. That's a very, very big play. Incineroar here, obviously, being able to get a pretty big Intimidate. This is certainly still anyone's game, but the Salamence is still waiting in the back from Naoto's end. And Tapu Fini here is still quite the offensive threat. Rayquaza will probably want to try to Dragon Ascent to get a knockout there. You know, typically Groudon doesn't have very much to hit Rayquaza, but of course we did see Dragon
We know
Ball.
otherwise, Aaron.
Yeah, but Salaman's a great Pokemon to be switching in here right now, especially because it has a Mega Evolve, so you get that Intimidate off both the Rayquaza and the Incineroar, and maybe now a Dragon Ascent won't even be able to knock out the Tapu Fini, which would be huge.
So how much damage is this Rayquaza's Dragon Ascent going to deal here with that Intimidate? Targets down that Tapu Fini slot. Is Tapu Fini going to be able to hang on?
Let's see.
Tapu Fini hangs on with just a sliver of hit points. No berry, though.
Oh, but
and
it's
it looks
the Z
like
move.
Z move. It's going to be the Twinkle Tackle? That's a Twinkle Tackle.
That's a Twinkle Tackle,
From that Tapu Fini. This is going to be dealing big damage to that Rayquaza. Although this could be a bulkier variant, but again, Twinkle Tackle is just so strong here.
Yeah, not to mention the Dragon Ascent, obviously, special defense drop. So let's see if it is enough to knock this out right now. Not something you see every day on Tapu Fini. Is it enough to get the knockout?
Yeah.
Oh,
from that
my goodness.
range. Yeah, oh yeah. With that special defense drop, that is going to be the KO there. And the Mysterious Winds disappear as Rayquaza faints. Incineroar uses U-turn, hits in that Tapu Fini, gets the KO, but unfortunately it's a little too late.
So now going to be a 2v2 matchup, of course, Incineroar and Celesteela against the Salamence, which has not Mega Evolved but now cannot Intimidate, and Groudon. The upside here is that Incineroar will be able to at least get an Intimidate off against both these attackers, but Groudon's just running something like Fire Punch and should just be able to Fire Punch the Celesteela away. So I think maybe the win condition is to fake out Leech Seed, and hopefully after the Intimidate, Fire Punch is doing like less than 50% and you kind of Leech Seed stall away. It's certainly not over yet by any means because of the big Intimidate drop here. The U-turn was absolutely essential to reset the Intimidate here at least and get it on that Groudon.
Yeah, Salamence don't typically carry moves that can touch that Celesteela. You can kind of leave it alone, but again, that additional chip from that Salamence is going to be rather annoying. So what is this Incineroar going to be able to do to provide support for this Celesteela here?
Yeah, I think the goal right now is to, like I said, get some Leech Seeds off and maybe stall away, hoping that the Fire Punches are doing less than expected. It's still going to be a really uphill battle, though. I think this turn you can just double protect with both Groudon and Salamence to block the Fake Out. Then the following turn, maybe just double up to guarantee the knockout onto the Groudon, and then it's a 2v1 matchup where, sure, you have Leech Seed off, but you're not going to be healing back enough to heal back all the damage like Naoto does. And yeah, the Salamence protecting here isn't a surprise.
Yep, Salamence protects, Groudon following suit here and protects as well, just blocking that Fake Out, as you mentioned, Aaron. And unless Celesteela has maybe like a substitute, that could be an out, but is Michele even have that? As Celesteela just goes straight for the Leech Seed, probably signifying that there is no substitute there.
Yeah, the substitute actually a really good point. Had it gone up there, it could have been a lot more annoying to deal with, but now, of course, being able to bypass the Fake Out should be able to guarantee a knockout onto the Incineroar as long as the Precipice Blades, assuming that's what, actually we saw that from Groudon already, so yeah, if the Precipice Blades connects with Incineroar, then it will guarantee a knockout, and Celesteela won't be able to do enough at this point to really close this one out. I mean, we did see the wide guard on Celesteela's end, so maybe you go for the wide guard and yeah, hope that your opponent Hyper Voices and Precipice Blades, but just going to be a protector instead.
Yep, Celesteela protects itself as Salamence on Naoto's side uses Double Edge, hits into that Incineroar, does good damage right there, probably trying to figure out what item is on that Incineroar as well. Just, you know, that's something that Naoto wants to try to figure out for the future games, and Michele now has to try to figure out what information he wants to reveal. It doesn't even matter that Incineroar gets KO'd right there outright. Maybe Michele just trying to think of if that Incineroar could do something to try to make it a possible situation for Celesteela to claw back, but it looks like both players have extended the hand And Naoto looks like he is ready to take game 1 here of this first elimination match.
Yeah, it was going to be difficult to win this one for sure. Naoto going for the double edge and the press display is kind of covering the wide guard option, saying, okay, if you wide guard, I'll still get the double edge damage off, and you can't really do too much damage to me with your Incineroar. So nice play there. A big reveal, though, in the Tapu Fini with the Therium Z. That's not something we see very often. Obviously, Tapu Finis before this tournament, a lot of them were just kind of using this bulkier variant, often with the Berry. And this tournament, we've seen the Waterium Z Tapu Fini that was on Wolf Glick's team. But a Therium Z Tapu Fini, very interesting. Still pretty bulky, too, you know, kind of spreading the Nature's Madness left and right. That's a really big reveal because it kind of destroys the Assault Vest Rayquaza, especially after the Dragon Ascent. If one Dragon Ascent goes off, you kind of decrease the special defense. So I think this Tapu Fini is going to be really critical for Naoto. We obviously saw that in the first game, and for Michele's end, he has to be able to deal with the Tapu Fini a little bit more effectively.
Yeah, and Michele has to try to get that position where Celesteela can just kind of wither out the storm, just kind of stick on that field, spread the Leech Seed around in order to try to heal back as much health as possible. You know, one thing that Michele has to do is just use that Kyogre to be able to knock out that Groudon.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I would love to see Mimikyu make an appearance here. I don't think it is quite good, unfortunately, but if it's running something like a strong Z move, for example, we can do a lot of damage against the Tapu Fini. I just think damage output against the Tapu Fini is kind of difficult given the Pokemon that Michele brought other than the Rayquaza. And with Rayquaza, pretty much force the Dragon Ascent, and obviously you don't want to be Dragon Ascenting into something that has the Therium Z move. So the goal, I think, definitely will be to adjust and to chip away at the Tapu Fini enough to maybe put it in KO range from a Dragon Ascent, and there are multiple ways of doing that, you know, maybe getting a heavy slam off here and there. Some adjustments could be nice too, especially the Mimikyu, which often carry play rough. That could maybe do a little bit more consistent damage against Tapu Fini. I think this time around, though, Michele knows now that, of course, there is the Therium Z on Tapu Fini. He is not going to just let Rayquaza eat up a Z move like that. We'll probably want to play a little bit more carefully and potentially bait it out and switch into something like Celesteela or even Togedemaru if he brings it into this match.
Yeah, also interesting thing to note is that, you know, Naoto set up that Trick Room.
Yeah.
And a lot of his Pokemon were just straight up faster. Obviously, the Mega Rayquaza was the only thing that outsped anything, but, you know, the Groudon and the Tapu Fini outsped pretty much everything on Michele's side of the field, barring that Mega Rayquaza.
Yeah.
Come to think of it.
Yeah, I like the Pokemon choices from Naoto's end. I just like Stack Attacka isn't very good here, especially against something like Rayquaza, which with the Assault Vest probably has Earth Power, which will really kind of just nuke the Stack Attacka.
Celesteela will kind of just Leech Seed it.
Exactly, yeah.
Stick around, so, you know, Naoto has the winning 4, so what is Michele going to do here to try to adjust?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that game I feel like was pretty much one off the fact that the Tapu Fini did have the Fairy Z move, so now that Michele knows that there is the Z move, I think he'll play a lot more carefully around it. Conserve Rayquaza, which is an absolute critical Pokemon in this matchup. Can't lose that, you know, the way he did in that last one, but it's actually going to be a slight adjustment this time around.
Here we go now. Game 2 between these two players, Naoto and Michele. Michele leading with Incineroar and Rayquaza. Over on Naoto's side, Salamence and Lunala.
So Salamence loving the ability to kind of spread Intimidates off right now. Rayquaza showing that it is kind of the, you know, does have Crunch, but after the Intimidate and with the Colbur Berry on Lunala, really not able to do very much damage right now. So, of course, there is the potential to fake out the Salamence, but I don't think this is really the best position for Michele to be in right now because of the Intimidates. There's actually two means of speed control you have to worry about right now from the opposing side. Obviously, the Trick Room that we already saw in Lunala, but also a potential Tailwind on Salamence, and playing the mind games between which one you want to shut down is pretty difficult. In fact, if Lunala wants to get up Trick Room, it should be able to. I mean, a Crunch plus a Dark-type attack from Incineroar, I'm not even sure that would be able to knock out Lunala after the Colbur Berry.
Yep,
and
Salamence on Naoto's side switches out. Groudon is going to take the field here. Of course, his Desolate Land ability is not going to matter at all thanks to Rayquaza's Airlock, barring Michele from just straight-up Mega Evolving. So, you know, you have to watch out, though. As you mentioned, these Rayquazas can carry Earth Power if it is a much more bulky Assault Vest variant, you know, with a lot of coverage moves. So how is this going to play out here as Rayquaza on Michele's side switches out and Celesteela takes the field? So that's not terrible. I mean, Celesteela, well, I mean, for Naoto at least, Groudon enjoys facing off against Celesteela, especially if he can get off a Sun-boosted Fire Punch of some sort. as Lunala protects itself, and Incineroar uses Snarl. Gonna keep Naoto's Lunala's Shadow Shield intact, as Groudon dodges the attacks, so not gonna take any chip damage at all.
Yeah, not a huge avoid there, given that the Groudon, of course, is the more physically based Groudon, but Naoto kind of playing it safe. I think he had a better lead matchup, and nice switching into the Groudon. Celesteela kind of in an awkward spot now where, yeah, of course, you can wide guard, you can even switch in Incineroar into Kyogre, potentially, but then you kind of leave the Lunala unchecked, allowing it to get a Trick Room off. Could even go for something like, just like a strong Moongeist Beam. So, yeah, I think certainly you must switch out here into something. The Incineroar is just really not going to be able to do too much other than Snarl. I don't think Snarl's worth it if you're trading it for a potential Precipice Blades.
Yep, Incineroar switches out. Rayquaza takes the field here, going to weaken the mount.
Oh my goodness, no way.
There's
no way.
Oh.
There's no way.
What is happening? Dragon Claw tech is big here at the World Championships, as that Dragon Claw punishes that Rayquaza switch in, as Lunala uses Trick Room here. Celesteela sets up a Leech Seed on that Primal Groudon, but that is so much damage dealt to that Rayquaza on the switch there.
Dragon Claw Groudon. What is going? I mean, we've seen one. It's clearly actually...
Both of our predictions are outdated now. Dragon Claw Groudon is going to take the whole thing home here. But wow, that did so much damage.
No, that was... Yeah, it wasn't like the riskiest read because Incineroar there probably is not going to stay in, but still is such a nice call. They're getting all that damage off against Rayquaza. If you can knock out the Rayquaza, you have so much more room to play with the Groudon in this matchup, and excellent cycling here of the Salamence to get it another Intimidate off. I mean, wow, what a great prediction. It wasn't like super high risk, but definitely very high reward, and with all that damage on Rayquaza having no way to heal itself up, man, that is such a great move there by Naoto.
Yeah, and it was, like you said, it's relatively safe. I mean, that Celesteela could have easily gone for a wide guard and switch in that Kyogre as well.
Yep.
So maybe Dragon Claw might have been
just the safest option.
Safest option
Yeah,
to be able to at least get some damage out there. So again, as you mentioned, not the highest risk, but it was kind of caught Michele off guard, I'm feeling. As Celesteela uses turn to go for Elise, but Lunala dodges the attack, and Lunala gets to use a Moongeist Beam with its Shadow Shield intact here. So again, this Lunala just being able to deal some free damage, hits in that Kyogre slot, does decent damage right there. But again, the fact that Lunala's Shadow Shield is intact and Celesteela's not healing up, or at least draining some of Lunala's hit points, kind of unfortunate there for Michele.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not being able to break a free Shadow Shield there is definitely unfortunate. And Tapu Fini, I was going to mention, hasn't even come out into this game. It finally is time for it to reveal itself, and the issue is that Michele hasn't even been able to do any damage to it right now. And with the Shadow Shield still intact, most certainly you can survive a bunch of attacks right now from the Celesteela and the Kyogre. I was thinking maybe if you went for a Heavy Slam and Origin Pulse, depending on how Lunala is trained, maybe that get the knockout. Ice Beam actually comes out, though, predicting maybe a potential Groudon switch in, and Tapu Fini taking that so well.
Yeah, so Tapu Fini takes that resisted hit, as Lunala again content to just go for a Moongeist Beam as it gets seeded by that Celesteela, so that Shadow Shield will no longer be intact after this turn. Again, just slowly chipping away this Kyogre, and Kyogre's taking a lot of damage right now.
Yep.
You know, that's probably going to be a 3-hit KO onto that Kyogre, so, you know, you're giving away a lot of free damage.
Yeah, and the other thing is now Tapu Fini gets to come in for free, right? Moonblast will do pretty good damage to Incineroar, definitely knock out the Rayquaza. Might not knock out Kyogre from this range, but a Z-move probably will. The Tapu Fini comes out in a really nice position, and once again, Michele doesn't really have any way to really effectively deal with it. I mean, sure, you can Leech Seed it, sure, you can Heavy Slam it for some damage, but it's not enough to threaten it, and I really like Naoto's decision to kind of keep it in the back this time around. He has been making some really solid plays throughout, and seriously impressive. Dragon Claw, once again, being such a critical tech, doing so much damage already to the Rayquaza. Now, Michele's 2 restricted Pokemon are so low.
Yep, Kyogre forced to switch out, does not want to get KO'd this turn, saving it for later to help deal with that Groudon over on Naoto's side, as Lunala uses Wide Guard here, just protecting, covering the option for a possible Origin Pulse, as Celesteela uses Leech Seed. Going to seed that Tapu Fini and, again, try to slowly chip away. You know, none of these Pokemon really threaten that Celesteela at all, as here's a Twinkle Tackle from that Tapu Fini.
Definitely a safe Twinkle Tackle there. It pretty much covers every option. Even if the Kyogre protects, you do some damage through Protect, and the Moonblast will probably be able to finish it off afterwards. The Rayquaza switches in, you get the knockout onto that. If Incineroar switches in, you still do like a solid, I would say, like 40 to 50% of damage to it, depending on how these Pokemon are trained. Maybe a little bit less, since Incineroar typically is very specially defensive, and yeah, actually more damage than I expected, honestly.
Yeah, as Celesteela drains away Tapu Fini and Lunala's health, so...
Yep.
Yeah, this Celesteela has seeded both Pokemon, but again, you know, neither of them really care about that Celesteela right now. They're really just targeting down that Celesteela partner.
Yeah, the issue is that, sure, the Leech Seed is great, but you're only slowly whittling away at Tapu Fini and Lunala, and for Naoto, all he has to do is basically knock out everything that isn't Celesteela, and then Groudon will just win against Celesteela. Once Kyogre is gone from this game, there is pretty much no way of stopping a Groudon from Fire Punching Celesteela. It feels kind of awkward because I feel like Michele needs kind of all the pieces to really effectively deal with certain Pokemon from Naoto's end, but he's at a position where now things are really threatened by potential knockouts. This is actually kind of a clever move, though. Maybe you can actually get some health back by playing, switching something that has Leech Seeded multiple Pokemon. So kind of a last-ditch effort and actually gives Michele a room or a way of recovery in this match.
Yep, this could be possibly punished, though, depending on what Naoto decides to do here as Salamence switches in for that Lunala. So Michele trying to heal this Kyogre back up. The Intimidate's going to kind of whittle away at Incineroar's attack stat here. And Incineroar uses U-turn. So now what does this Tapu Fini on Naoto's side do? Does it go on the offensive? It's kind of rare for it to try to target down that Celesteela slot with a Moonblast, but I don't even think a Moonblast from this range would even be able to get the KO on that especially bulky Kyogre.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Maybe it has something like a water type attack like Scald or Hydro Pump targeting the Incineroar slot. We'll have to see. Yep, there is a Scald.
Targets down that Celesteela. Does have
boosted by the rain.
Burn. Boosted by the rain here. No burn, but Celesteela can tend to just go ahead and heal up with its leftovers as that Kyogre gets back some health from that Tapu Fini.
Yeah, so clever play there by Michele. This game, I think, seemed like it wasn't going too great for Michele, but I think he's actually made some quite nice plays to get out of this Trick Room. And obviously you want to be able to switch in Groudon against the Kyogre, but it's always so risky to do that when you're staring down an opposing Celesteela, which can switch into the Rayquaza. That being said, Trick Room did expire, and Salamence can just kind of go on the offense right now, maybe just launch something like a Double Edge into the opposing Kyogre slot. So not wanting to take that, it's going to switch into probably the Incineroar to get an Intimidate off, and that's what happens. Yep,
Incineroar takes the field again, just trying to preserve that Kyogre for later, as that Intimidate is going to weaken the Salamence on Naoto's side. Incineroar could possibly get KO'd here still. I mean, it has taken a lot of damage, and Intimidate onto that Salamence is big, but, you know, what is bigger than that? A Salamence Double Edge.
Let's see. Yeah, Double Edge knocking out Incineroar would be bad news here for Michele.
Yep,
there is the Double Edge.
Salamence uses it. Hits into that Incineroar, crashes into it. Incineroar hangs on. 3 hit points right there. And Incineroar gets to munch away on its barrier and heal back up. So that was very close.
Yeah, huge survival there. I think Incineroar going down would be really, really bad news. Probably a double up in here, but that shouldn't get the knockout onto the Incineroar slot. So yeah, you can see just how big these berries are. Another Leech Seed connecting as well.
Yeah, and Celesteela going to seed the Salamence and heal back hit points from that side of the field. Of course, Incineroar will get some hit points back from that Tapu Fini as well because of the placement of that Leech Seed from earlier.
Yeah, so kind of a rotating list of Pokemon right now, but I kind of like the plays from both ends. I think Naoto does not want to just switch into Groudon, in front of a Kyogre, because then you always have to worry about the potential water type attack coming out from Kyogre and the potential switch out into Rayquaza. So I still feel like Naoto has pretty good control of this game, and Incineroar will at least be able to get a fake out off this turn, and this is actually at least a kind of a clever way to deal with the Tapu Fini, just consistently through Leech Seed, and we know this Tapu Fini doesn't have any means of recovery, so slowly whittling away at it, and no fake out!
No switches, no fake out. Salamence just goes for the Double Edge into that Incineroar, gets the KO, so Michele's support Pokemon of choice, that Incineroar can now no longer use its Intimidate ability against Salamence or Groudon.
Is there a burn?
Celesteela gets burned from that Tapu Fini Scald, which essentially negates that leftovers that it's carrying here as that Heavy Slam crashes into that Salamence and does very minimal damage as Celesteela, again, heals from the leftovers, will get damaged by that burn, and finally heal back from that Leech Seed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously...
I got the order wrong, sorry.
Close enough, Dewey. With Scald being having such a high burn probability, though, I think it makes sense from Naoto's end to kind of just fish for the Scald at this point and kind of fish for a burn, because he's already done a lot of damage onto Rayquaza and Kyogre. In fact, both of those are basically a Dragon or a Double Edge away from the Salamence from getting knocked out, even after the Intimidate, I think. One of the main questions I have to wonder is, can an Extreme Speed from Rayquaza knock out the Salamence at this point. If not, then certainly it will just faint beforehand. But I think Naoto has really conserved his Pokemon really well. As soon as one of the two restricted Pokemon from Michele's end goes out, then Groudon will be able to assume full weather control of this game. So Rayquaza right now quite low. Maybe you can just double up into that slot with like a Double Edge and a Moonblast. I think that will almost certainly guarantee a knockout onto it, and then Groudon should be able to just win the game. So I think Naoto in a very, very good position right now.
Yeah, again, the Celesteela has set up a bunch of Leech Seeds, but I mean, Naoto really targeting down those partner Pokemon of Celesteela in order to deal as much damage as possible. As Rayquaza now Mega Evolves here, gonna bring out that Delta Stream ability and those mysterious winds that protect that Rayquaza and that Celesteela actually from anything that it's weak to. But I mean, in terms of flying, but that's really just electric.
No extreme speed.
Edge, so no extreme speed at all. Just going to get KO'd by this Salamence. So things are looking pretty bleak right now for Michele as the mysterious winds disappear. Salamence almost KO'd now by the recoil as Tapu Fini uses Moonblast, lands in that Celesteela slot. A critical hit, just extra damage on top. Special attack drop, not going to matter at all as Celesteela uses a heavy slam now. Crashing in that Salamence. Is it going to be enough to get the KO? Even hangs on with just a sliver of hit points here.
Yeah, this was a really...
actually, it's going to get KO'd by the Leech Seed anyway, so...
Yeah, but not getting a Beast Boost. Not that I don't think it really mattered, because I think Naoto did what he needed to, which was get rid of one of the weather users in Kyogre or Rayquaza, and now Groudon will be able to finally set the stage. So, yeah, I think this was a really tough matchup for Michele, and he navigated it like as well as he could have, but there's just really not much I feel like you can do against the Fairy MZ Tapu Fini. Like, such a good tech specifically against his team. The Dragon Claw Groudon as well, I mean,
that's so much damage.
I mean, there's a reason why players are running it, clearly, and it's because if you don't have the Dragon Claw, you actually really can't touch Rayquaza at all, so it can kind of set up in front of you, get a Swords Dance off, but it's really not a coincidence that we've seen 2 in a row now on this stream, and 2 that have been absolutely massive in dealing so much damage to Rayquaza, because these teams often want to get rid of Rayquaza because of the threat of Kyogre, obviously. So, yeah, Groudon will be able to just come in now, should be able to just clean up this game against Celesteela and Kyogre. Really, really methodical play from Naoto, especially with the early lead, getting the Intimidated off, maneuvering with Trick Room, leaving Tapu Fini for later on in the game, and unfortunately Michele just did not have a way to deal with the Tapu Fini spreading all this damage.
Kyogre uses Protect, but it was all for naught here as Naoto ready to close out this game as Lunala uses Moon Geist Beam into that Kyogre slot as Kyogre protects itself, and Celesteela just desperately just trying to set up Leech Seed. I mean, this is the World Championships, you can't give up just yet. Lunala is seeded as Celesteela heals back up, and again, that burn also just mitigates the amount of damage, or the amount of damage that Celesteela can heal off with that leftover. So, tough position right here for Michele just throughout the entire game.
Yeah, I just don't think he can do anything at this point. I mean, the Kyogre is pretty much forced to click Ice Beam because obviously you can't go for a water type attack with the Sun out, so really not much you can do. I mean, Groudon, Celesteela can at least maybe protect this turn to get some extra recovery from leftovers and Leech Seed, but no double protect
there as Lunala uses Moon Geist Beam here, connects with that Kyogre slot, dealing some damage. Kyogre should be able to hang on from that range right there based on previous attacks, but a critical hit changes everything right there, and it seems as though Michele has just given up as Groudon uses Fire Punch, connects on that Celesteela, boosted by that Sun, and there you go, Naoto Mizobuchi advances to your top 16 here at the 2019 Pokemon World Championships. Congratulations to Naoto, commiserations to Michele, but he played he tried his absolute hardest, but Naoto was just one step